I thank you very much for tuning into That Will Nevr Work podcast. So my guest, he was Tesla's #1 regional salesperson, top of his field, executing at an elite level. And then he walked away from all of it to build something that actually aligned with his purpose, his vision for wealth, and his values around community. Today, as managing partner of Cornell Communities, he leads a private investment firm with over $50 million in real estate transactions, turning overlooked mobile home communities across America into thriving, stabilized assets while creating passive income for investors who bet on him when he was still trying to figure it all out. Let's talk about it right after this.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Nevr Work, an award-winning podcast where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
So my guest today is driven. He's a visionary. He is purpose-rooted. He's bold. He's strategic. He's mission-led, transformative. But the last one, he's grounded. All of us want to be grounded in some way, shape, or form. And he finds out where the ground is so we can live on it, right? But I thank y'all very much for tuning in today. I want y'all to welcome Leo Young. Leo, thank you very much for coming on to the show.
Thanks for having me, and excited to be on.
Thank you very much. So, Leo, you were in this organization that appears to have a whole lot of money, right? Why would you leave at a place where you were, where appeared to be your peak, where most people are still grinding through their career trying to find, something that means something more, whatever it is. So what was happening on the inside during that season, and then from the outside where everything looked like it was working?
So I think to me, at the core, I'm a philosopher. I just like to think about a lot of things. It's not that I study the books. It's just more so I ask myself questions and kind of force myself to do what I think is right for me. So when I was at Tesla, I'll tell you a story of how I got into it. So I was studying finance in college, and I loved investments. It was like philosophy of business. Like, you kind of make predictions at where you think companies are going to go, and you buy it buy their stock if you think it's going to go up. So at the time, I'm like, okay, I can probably go to a desk job for the rest of my career, be sitting here like 40 hours a week for, 30, 40 years of my life. Or I could take a risk. I could take a risk right now and do what I think is important to round out myself. So for me, I'm an introvert, and at the time, I was just like not good at communication. I'm not good at like telling people or communicating why I believe in something. So I'm like, okay, fine. Sales like makes sense. And for me, being an introvert in sales, it kind of doesn't go hand in hand, right? Like you kind of imagine this guy that's super gregarious, he's super outgoing and stuff, and he can like close the deal. Like I'm not any of those. So, at Tesla, it was like the start of this kind of personal development journey that I kind of learned a lot about myself, and I was pushed in ways that, I didn't imagine before. So I got to the top by being myself rather than doing what I thought was right to do. Like I wasn't a good closer. I still like don't like to be pushy, anything like that. I got there by being organized. And so to answer your question of why I wanted to switch from there. So at the time, Tesla was going through a really tough period in the company's history. They were almost bankrupt for the most recent time in history. And yeah, it was like everyone's whip was getting cracked really hard, and we were working, and it was like a hamster wheel.
Right.
You're just like grinding and sprinting, and like with no end in sight, and like nobody believed in you. And I sort of had this revelation that, hey, I need to start building income that doesn't rely on me clocking in and out. So from there, that core question led me to do research and kind of figure out like how to just do that. So I ended up in real estate because, intuitively you're like, well, all rich people have real estate, right? Like there's that statistics, like 90% of millionaires do so through real estate. So I'm like, okay, great. I invested in real estate as a passive investor. I found a group to invest in and fell in love with it. I fell in love with real estate. And then I was kind of motivated to go after what I thought was right at the time, which is, hey, like if you think real estate is the right move, like you go all in. Mm-hmm. So, left that role, went into being a real estate agent full time with no safety net. So that's how I got into real estate. That's why I left. It was more so like an inspiration rather than, running away from something.
So as I said, I did my homework, right? And so you touched on something real quick where you said how much you were pushed. In another podcast, you mentioned that in that space of Tesla, you were being pushed to give 120% and then be pushed even more, right? Pushed even further. Yeah. And I'm using this as the example because you also touched on something else about being organized. You were able to produce still being organized, all those type of things. But sometimes we don't take that experience to apply it to where we want to go. Do you feel as though that was a very important part of you because you already had the repetition, right? You already developed that skill. So how did that transition yourself or that place of you in that corporate America perspective to now what you're doing for yourself? How did that translate? Yeah,
so sales is a really great precursor to entrepreneurship. I think that's not said enough. It's just the kind of incentive structure of it. Like, you get paid a portion of the value that you bring to the company. So, like commission, right? As opposed to entrepreneurship, you're doing the same thing. Like when you sell a product, like people transact because they find it more valuable than the dollar they have in their pocket. So, okay, that in just that mindset alone, it's helpful. And I will say that it's much harder than you think it is, than I thought it is. But at the time, I didn't know. I didn't know how hard it would be.
Right.
And I think training your mind bit by bit, kind of like an athlete. Like if you look at an athlete, like you imagine, like what's a day in the life of, I don't know, Tom Brady.
Right.
Like he's doing drills every single day, and he's been doing drills for 20 plus years. So for you to kind of build those mental repetitions of like doing the thing that scares you but is important, of picking yourself back up when you get knocked down, and continuously learning and kind of setting aside your ego and doing what the right thing is rather than what you think is right.
And see, I brought that up because sometimes we don't think that what we've done in one place will transfer into another place. We don't believe that. We talk ourselves out of it. And like as you're talking about repetition, well, if we're doing it repeatedly, we could probably do it second nature, right? We could do it in our sleep. So why wouldn't we want, or why would we pull ourselves back in that? And did you find yourself trying to pull yourself and say, you know what, I'm not sure if I really can get into real estate. I'm just a salesperson. Like I'm not built for this. So did you talk yourself, or did you find yourself trying to talk yourself out of getting to that place?
So yes to both.
Okay.
And, I think one part of it is getting clear to what matters to you, what the right thing is. I mean, you obviously, like, looking forward, the dots are hard to connect. Looking back, you're like, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Right.
But when you want to get clear, so, I mean, I've been on this kind of personal development journey for, like more than half my life. I think it's something that later on in life I kind of learn doesn't come naturally to people. But hey, I had a different life experience than most people did. But to get clarity on what you think is the right thing. So I remember a habit that I kind of developed at Tesla was just writing things down. There were times that like I would get frustrated at certain things, or like I would feel overwhelmed, and I would just start writing things. So just writing down like the different components of your life, like where you want to go, what your goal is. Doesn't matter if it's the right if it's the right goal that you want for the rest of your life, but just like where it is right now, how do you get there? And then doing some research. I mean, this was like before AI. So like, actually like digging through Google, like watching YouTube videos and stuff. So yeah, I think doing that, asking yourself the hard questions and actually spending time with it. I was really into meditation before. And yeah, just sitting with that stillness, looking within, because I mean, look, your truth comes from within. Like you know what the right thing is.
Right.
Whether or not you want to face it, that's another question.
You're right about that. But as you're talking about facing it, as you stated about looking backwards versus looking forward, right? Trying to connect the dots. So, when you take a look back and say, you know what, I was into finance, I'm working for Tesla. Does that really translate into me doing mobile home stuff? Like, it almost feels like it doesn't work together, right? But do you feel as though there was a dot or two where they kind of intersected at one place?
Definitely not. The beauty of life is that there is no right or wrong way. Like I've known people that have played the playbook that life gives them, which is amazing. I mean, like I look at them, I'm envious of them. They studied hard, they went into a great school, like an Ivy League school, they got a really high paying job. I'm like, that's great.
Right.
But I think getting older is like realizing that everyone spends their 24 hours differently and time is never wasted. So you spending time, I mean, I have such an impeccable kind of mindset and just like personal development journey that few others have gone on. Just like talking to people, they always look to me for wisdom and like clarity. And I'm just able to kind of dissect things and kind of see through the noise a lot better than other people can. So, I think we are all blessed in our own regards. And, you sort of develop this confidence that what you do, you will make the decision right. So I'll give you one more example is a lot of people, they kind of stress over like, is this the right decision? And the reality is, for the most part, if it's to a dilemma, if you're like, hey, should I go left? Should I go right? Should I do this career or that? Chances are both can be right. It just depends on how and if you make it right. So the executing matters way more than the actual decision itself.
So, and I'm hearing you in what you're saying, because you're talking about us finding our path, right? And because sometimes people have dreams about what we should do and how it should look and how it should feel. But I think there's something that you're talking about that you said very early on in this podcast. Why? That 3-letter word, unfortunately, sometimes it could bring hesitation, procrastination. Sometimes it could bring a little bit of movement and progress, right? Sometimes we can move and not progress, but that's why I had to add on progress. So how intricate was that for you to question tradition, to question the going on this one particular path for you to, because you're telling me, Maurice, finance, Tesla, mobile homes don't go together, So why would you even go into something that doesn't feel like it's a natural flow?
Going with the flow is just one path. It's the path of least resistance. It's the most proven path, but it doesn't mean that it is the right path. So you think, well, for me, I just went with I've trained up my courage muscle to go with the path that I think is right. And how I connect the dots, I mean, you can connect it any way looking back. Right.
Right.
I could be like, hey, after real estate, after Tesla, I went into real estate because, I discovered the magic of real estate after investing in it. And then, how did I get into mobile home parks? It's like, hey, it's great because it makes money. That's what gets investors excited and how we can build up a potential company. And then also you're providing affordable housing. That's great. And, looking forward, it's not clear. And I think the important thing is like to get in a mindset that is, you want to put yourself in a clear headspace to make good decisions. So not to go on a tangent, but when you're seeing the most successful people, they really emphasize the quality of your decisions that you make. And how do you make good quality decisions? You want to get in a headspace that's out of the day-to-day block and tackling. So, Jeff Bezos, when he was running Amazon, he wanted his executive team to be on a 3-month head start to the rest of the actual day-to-days of the company, so they can think long-term, they can think strategic, what direction to bring the company in, rather than what should I do today, what's for lunch, whatever. So for that, some of my clear decisions come through just going on kind of self-guided retreats. I think one thing I do is on my birthday, I would go just do my own thing. Like I wouldn't celebrate. I would just go take a walk in a park alone with a notebook and kind of see like what's important to my life and really get into what I think is right. And that's made the world's difference.
I think, and I'm bringing this stuff up because again, we're talking about clarity, right? Understanding what is the direction. It doesn't always have to be a straight line, or the perception of a straight line, right? Because if we allow things to grow and to mature, there's going to be moments where we got to pivot in life, right? And we're going to see things from a different lens. And so I think on my end, when you take a look at Tesla, has Tesla always done everything in a straight line? Not necessarily, right? No. And so did that culture really kind of influence you to a degree to go outside the box a little bit? Think on a bigger and broader scale, and so it's those type of things where like, hey, you know what? When we look at it on his face, Leo, it don't sound right. But you were in an environment of innovation. You were in an environment, of thinking outside the box. And I think that's something that we don't always take a look at in a micro position. We might look macro, but not so much micro.
For sure. And the people that you spend time with will dictate your future. I mean, you've heard of the saying, show me your 5 closest friends, right, and I'll show you your life. And I think to go beyond that too, it's not just friends. It's like people that you spend time with. So like the company that you spend time with, Elon, he was very influential into the entire company. It felt like a startup, even at 35,000 people. So spending time with that, listening to different audiobooks and podcasts and different people, right? I think they kind of challenge the way that you view the world, and they give you the courage to go and do what you think is best. And, I think sometimes it's remembering that, like, we have one life, there is no do-over. It's not like we're stuck on a position. Like tomorrow you can switch your path if you really wanted to. So having that freedom and that courage to make the decision.
But sometimes we don't feel like we have that courage, right? We may not, as you was talking about, the 5 people around us, maybe 3 of them are pessimists, and so we may not have that support. So what would you suggest to the individual who don't feel like they have that support to still be able to break the mold moving forward?
That's such a good question, because it's definitely something that a lot of people face. It's like there's one aspect of like, okay, like I don't need support. Yes, like you truly don't. But also, the people close to you, it's not necessarily that they don't want to see you succeed. It's just like their frame of reality is just so different than what you want to achieve. They don't know where you want to go, how hard it is to get there. So like they just can't make that connection. It's not that they don't believe in you. It's not that they're pessimists. It's just that they don't see it. And the reality is that no one lives your life except for you. No one's going to take the action except for you. So you are the only one whose permission that you need.
Wow. So when we think about real estate, again, we don't think about mobile homes in that state, right? And so when you look at the unconventional part of real estate that you are a part of, we undervalue it. Some people don't understand the value of that and who they really serve. So why did you choose an industry or part of an industry that people don't really know or really understand about?
You know, when you kind of pick the pool that you swim in, you kind of see how competitive it is, and you kind of get a gauge, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Warren Buffett says, don't fish where people fish where the fish are. So, you know, at the time when I was looking into it, and just kind of seeing what the draw is of mobile home parks, I think structurally it made a lot of sense as far as real estate goes. I mean, it's a very small niche, but you know, when you go into it, you're like, hey, you know, the people live there on average of 10 plus years. It's some of the lowest turnover rates in all the different asset classes. You know, it's a low cost form of housing that the demand will be there if the economy is good, and the demand will increase if it's bad. So you're like, okay, there's kind of characteristics that I like a lot as an investor. So, you know, I kind of want to go into it. And the two things I will say, like, one is I wanted to invest in mobile home parks myself as an investor. And two is I also saw it as an opportunity to further my kind of entrepreneurship muscle. Like, okay, like I can build up this platform and get such valuable skills through it. Now, don't get me wrong. It's been freaking painful and grueling hours, like so much sacrifice, like working 7 days a week, having no life and no like friends and no hobbies for a long time to get it to here. And, you know, we're just getting started, right? So that path isn't for everyone, but to me and in my journey, it's a necessary path to where I want to get to. And the time is now. You know, you just have to do it and like kind of commit to getting back up if you get knocked down, which is like far more times than I anticipated. But still, I'm here.
But see, I think that's where again, within this particular show, we've already talked about your level of commitment just at Tesla, 120%. Now I need you to give another 20%. Well, you know what, Elon? I ain't got no more blood, bro. Like, you know, I don't have anything else to give. You know, I don't have any more skin left on my fingers.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? You know, but look at what you're talking about as far as that level of commitment of where you want to get to and who you want to serve and what you want to achieve in your desired outcome. You know, it's those type of things that, again, we underestimate how that has allowed us to move forward to another place. Along with, if you're going to be there, you got to be organized too, right? To keep on track, you know. So those things, those ideas, I just want people to hear how those things do connect, how they help us move forward in our entrepreneurial space.
Yeah, you know, I think entrepreneurship, first off, it's not for everyone, and it's never meant to be for everyone. Right. There's certain things that you have to do to get the prize of entrepreneurship, and different people, like, they have varying levels of how much they want to play that game. And, you know, to me, I enjoy it because I see life as a long-term game. Like, you know, if I have one goal in life, I have my whole life to get there. And I will say that entrepreneurship is not about the money or the reward. It's about who you become along that process, and the people that you help, the people that you inspired, you know, kind of compiling a team and like building them up, investing into their growth, like bringing the best out in them, helping them do things that they didn't think was possible before, kind of changing the trajectory of their lives. I mean, things like that, little moments of that is like infinitely rewarding to me. And that's, you know, part of what keeps me going.
Nice. So Leo, one, I want to say thank you very much for coming on to the show. Number two, if people are trying to figure out who they are and what they want to become, where can they find you and talk to you and get that encouragement? You have a fabulous YouTube channel, so just let everybody know where they can reach out to you.
Yeah, so I'll answer it in two parts, Maurice. So the first thing on what the audience or what the listener can do to kind of get that clarity in their life. So one thing I did was the 7 whys exercise. So basically you get out a sheet of paper and you say, what's your goal in life? And then why do you want to achieve that goal? That's the first why. And like truly write it. Don't just like go through it like an exercise, like spend time on it. and get clear, because once you figure it out, like, you will figure it out. So going through each why, you're like, okay, I want to make $1 million. Why? Because I want to provide for my family. Why? Because I want to never feel like I am limited again because I grew up poor.
Right.
Why? Oh, because and you dig in very, very deep. So once you get to the seventh why, like, you write everything down and refer back to it, because that's the closest form of truth that you will get. So that's the first one. Second is I'm happy to be a resource, if anyone wants to reach out as well. 2 ways you can reach out to me on my social media. It's Leo Young on LinkedIn. So it's LeoYoung, or Leo Young Real Estate on Instagram and YouTube. Or you can reach out to us. You can find more about our company, mobile home parks, maybe get on our investor wait list. That's cornellcommunities.com, CornellCommunities.com.
Nice. So, Leo, I thank you very much for coming on to the show. But I got to ask you a question. Would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
3 doors, because when you have 2 choices, you have a dilemma. When you have 3 choices, you have an option.
That's a very astute answer. I gotta ponder that one a little bit.
Honestly, it was coincidence, but Tony Robbins said that.
I know, right?
On his post yesterday, I'm like, that's very good, because when you're thinking like two options, you're like, okay, is this one or that one? As opposed to like 3, then you're like kind of weighing in the true pros and cons. You could be more objective with it. But end of the day, it's about making the decision that you make the best one that you made.
Right. Now, Leo, I started to go down the 7 whys. But I hope everyone else that's out there, I hope that you, as you listen to his response, ask yourself, what are those options? Why are you choosing this option? Because it can ultimately get you to exactly what Leo's been saying to you, the crux of where you really want to get to. So, Leo, I thank you very much for coming on to the show.
Yeah. And I encourage you, the listener, to take action. Just do it as soon as you can, because it's easy to consume, but it's hard to take action. And your future you will thank you.
Most definitely. Most definitely. So, Leo, I thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, Maurice.
All right, y'all. And I thank y'all very much for listening to That Will Nevr Work podcast. But I got to leave you with a challenge. I want you to name the asset you've been overlooking. See, Leo, he built wealth by seeing value in what everyone else he was missing. So this week, write down one idea, skill, opportunity, or venture you've been dismissing because it seemed too unconventional, too stigmatized, or too not what people would like me to do. Spend 30 minutes researching it very seriously. You don't have to bet everything. Just be willing to take a look. The best opportunities live precisely where most people aren't looking. I thank you all very much, and I'll talk to y'all just a little bit later.
Thanks for listening. Follow Maurice Chisholm on social media to stay connected, and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work. Or will it?